If you've ever tried ripping a full sheet of ply with a circular saw freehand, or even just using another sheet as a guide, then you probably know how frustrating and time consuming that can be to just set up perfectly. This is going to make your life a whole lot easier, and while it is easy and cheap to build, it does have a special feature on this edge here, which I haven't actually seen on any other DIY track saws yet. Laminate flooring has a couple of good properties that make it ideal for something like a track saw. For a start, it's got a very durable top and bottom surface, which makes it ideal for something like the base of your saw just to glide on. It's also a third the thickness of 3/4 inch plywood, which reduces the weight quite a bit. And the best part is it comes in packs of 10, which makes it pretty affordable as well. To make your track saw, you're going to need 3 of these boards. Start by cutting off this edge on all 3 boards because we don't need it and it's just going to get in the way later, so might as well just get rid of that now. To make this a lot easier for yourself, I would recommend finding a flat surface to work on. Something that's long enough to have 2 boards laid down flat end to end. Before we get to the point where we're going to actually screw everything together, I'm just going to use super glue just to hold things in place for now. Obviously you can also use CA glue if you like. The next step is optional, but I would recommend using something like aluminium U-channel for the side of your saw to reference as a straight edge. It will also make the track a little bit more rigid. I'm using 12mm by 12mm, which is about 1/2 inch by 1/2 inch, and that'll be small enough and low enough for the motor to clear so you can make deeper cuts as well. What you want to do here is move your saw blade over the edge so that there is a little bit of a gap left between the board and the blade. Something like 4mm or 3/16 of an inch would work fine. Next, measure the distance between the side of the U-channel and the edge of the board, and then cut the 3rd panel into 2 long strips to fit. Now, here's a little tip for you. Take one of these 2 boards and cut it in half. Then swap them over like this so the longer one can go in the middle and join on both ends. The reason why you want to do it this way is because you already have a join in the bottom boards. So overlapping it like this with the joints on either side of that makes it a lot stronger. While the glue on that cures properly, I will mark off where I want to drill the holes to fix the U-channel onto the board. I'm spacing these about 100mm or 4 inches apart, and then I will temporarily glue that in place as well. Next, I will mark where I want to drill and screw the top boards I temporarily glued together earlier. I'm also drilling and screwing on both sides of each joint like this. I'm going to use these buttonhead screws to screw the top 2 layers together. The big flat head on these will act like a washer. It's not a must, but I do have a heap of them lying around, so might as well just use them. To fix the U-channel in place, I'm going to use these panhead screws. They just fit a little bit better inside the track compared to the buttonhead screws I just used a second ago. Unfortunately though, both of these screws were just a little bit too long, so they ended up poking through the bottom of the board. It's not a big deal though, because you can easily just grind them off like I'm doing here, or if you do have a belt sander, you can use that as well. So this rubber I found at my local hardware. It's 1.5mm thick, which I think is about 1/16 of an inch by probably 4 inches wide, 100mm. And I've linked you in the description to neoprene rubber, which is pretty much the same thing as this. So check out the link if you just want to see what it looks like and just get a general price on it as well. I'm using double-sided tape to stick this down onto the board, and as you would have it, I ran out pretty much right at the end. When sticking down the rubber, just make sure it sticks past the long edge of the board by about 1/4 of an inch or 7mm, and you'll see why in just a minute. The strip on the back I just cut in half and stuck that down pretty much the same way. This one does not have to line up with the back edge though, but honestly just do what feels right for you. Already you can see how well the rubber strips grip without the use for clamps. The advantage of using rubber over, say, sanding paper is that you don't risk scratching or marking the surface you are working on. Plus it just grips better as well. On this side of the track, I'm just moving these screws in a little bit because I need to trim this edge off flush with the U-channel. One more thing to do before we can test this out. Run your saw the full length of the track and just cut off that excess rubber underneath. And just look at that. You got a fancy new cutting edge, just like on the expensive track saws. And you can easily peel this one off to move it over if you want to cut a new edge, especially after switching between, say, a narrow and a wider blade. Now you can easily rip longer boards and even full sheets of ply lengthwise if you want, without any clamps. If you haven't already done so, make sure to check out the other video for the making of the smaller version. This one also does not need any clamps. It uses a slightly different method of making it stick on the bottom, and it's perfect for making multiple shorter cuts. I really hope you found that useful and inspiring in some way, and that you might consider hitting that like and subscribe button. And as always, I'll catch you on the next one.